Well, hey, how are you doing? I hope you enjoyed that B-roll segment. If you're new to the channel and you enjoy this video and you enjoy car reviews, definitely subscribe to the channel and hit the thumbs up button on this video. If you're returning, thank you for checking out the video. This week I've been driving the 2020 Volkswagen Atlas Cross Sport. It is the new 2-row Atlas. They also have a 3-row Atlas. And if you know anything about me, I own the 3-row Atlas. So we're gonna talk a lot about the differences between the two, but mainly we're gonna touch on the exterior design, the cargo area, the engine under the hood, the interior, and the tech. Then we'll take it for a drive and talk about the driving experience. And then we'll talk about the price and competition and wrap the video up, but let's just get into it. And no, that's not a ghost car back there. It's just a very foggy morning here in North Texas. All right, and before we jump into the exterior design of this vehicle, let's talk about the different models of SUV that Volkswagen sells, and then the different trim levels that you can get this Cross Sport in, because there are quite a few. So as far as models go, Volkswagen only has 3 SUVs that they're currently selling. First of all, you have the Tiguan, and you can have the Tiguan in both a 2-row and 3-row SUV, but it is smaller. And then you have the Atlas and Atlas Cross Sport. The Atlas is the 3-row, the Atlas Cross Sport is the 2-row that we have here. So the first question should be, what distinguishes the Atlas from the Tiguan? And obviously that's just size. The Atlas is built a lot bigger than the Tiguan. Now, of course, I have reviews out on the Tiguan, both the 2-row and 3-row versions, and I have plenty of content on the 3-row Atlas. But of course, in this video, we're focusing on the Cross Sport. So speaking of the Cross Sport, you have 3 basic trim levels. You have an S, an SE, and an SEL, but all of those trim levels can be broken down even further. So basically, there's a lot of options of mixing and matching a technology package, the 4Motion, and of course the R line gives it a little bit of different styling characteristics and looks really good. And like I said, most of the trim levels do get 2 different engine options. You can have the 2-liter turbocharged 4-cylinder engine or the V6 engine. We'll dive more into those when we talk about the engine in this vehicle. So what do we have here? This is the SEL V6 with 4Motion. So let's go ahead and continue on with the review and look at the exterior design here. So with the overall design of the Cross Sport, Volkswagen was going for a bold and emotional design. Now the Volkswagen Atlas is a very bold and boxy design, but this definitely has a lot more curves and just a lot more design elements to it. You have a new front fascia with light signature and a new rear bumper we'll take a closer look at in just a second. And of course you have that dramatically raked rear pillar and hatch, which again we'll take a closer look at in just a second. But let's start off looking at the headlights here. These are LED performance headlights. They are all-weather lights with low-speed corner illuminating feature. You do have an adaptive front lighting system with LED daytime running lights. One thing you don't have here are fog lights. Taking a step back, you can see that signature Volkswagen grille and Volkswagen emblem, and you can see that aggressive lower dam in the front as well. One of the things we do get here are nice silver roof rails. We also have these really clean 20-inch wheels. That helps with the sporty appearance of this vehicle. The base vehicle gets 18-inch wheels. The premium, you can get all the way up to 21-inch wheels. As far as looks compared to road handling, I think these 20s are a good compromise. You also get a unique Cross Sport badge on the side fender and some body-colored side mirrors with integrated lights. Moving around to the rear of the vehicle, you see that new rear fascia. It is a nice sporty design, but you don't get visible exhaust ports here, at least on this design. You can see that chrome strip that runs along the back that has Atlas written right there. You also have the SEL V6 badge and the 4Motion badge. And you can also see here that we do have the LED taillights. All right, and before we open up that hatch and take a look at the cargo area, let's talk about the overall dimensions and size of this Cross Sport. It rides on the same wheelbase as the Atlas, but it is a bit shorter. Your full wheelbase is 117.3 inches. The total length is 195.5 inches. The overall width of the Cross Sport is 78.4 inches. Height is 67.8 inches. And you have 8 inches of ground clearance. And the exterior color here is Aurora Red. I think it looks pretty good. I'm not a huge fan of red vehicles. When we bought our Atlas, we were looking for a white or black one. We ended up getting a dark blue, which I've been really happy with so far. But I've seen this thing in the R line in a black color, and I think it looks really good like that. But of course, color is always subjective. That's just my taste. Okay, so let's talk about that rear hatch. You do get the power opening rear hatch in the SLE trim, so it's just a touch of a button and it power lifts. Likewise, you have a button here to close it, but we're not going to do that because we want to check it out. So the rear end here is a little bit shorter than the 3-row Atlas, but removing that 3rd row gives this a ton of cargo space. So if you're looking behind the 2nd row, you're talking about 40.3 cubic feet of cargo space. And if you fold that 2nd row down, you're talking about 77.8 cubic feet of total cargo space. And I really think this is an excellent amount of space and definitely a big selling point for this vehicle. But with that, let's close it up, pop the hood, and check out the engine under the hood. All right, and like I said, there are 2 different engine options that you can get with pretty much any trim level of the Cross Sport. Your base engine is always the 2-liter turbocharged 4-cylinder engine. That pushes 235 horsepower, 258 foot-pounds of torque, and I've driven that in the 3-row Atlas. It's surprisingly a good engine. Whenever I was going to buy my Atlas, I insisted on the V6 because I didn't think that the 4-cylinder was going to be good enough, but after driving it and reviewing it, it is a good engine. I still prefer the V6 though. And the V6 is exactly what we have in here. It is a 3.6 liter V6. That's 276 horsepower, 266 foot-pounds of torque, and is matched up to an 8-speed automatic transmission with Tiptronic and a sport mode. MPG ratings on that 4-cylinder engine is 21 miles per gallon city, 24 miles per gallon highway. And on this V6 with 4Motion, you're looking at 16 city and 22 highway. All right, and with that, it's time to move into the interior, starting with the 2nd row seating. So let's get into it. All right, and the first thing to notice back here in the 2nd row seating is there is just a ton of space. You still have a ton of space in the cargo area, but there's a ton of space for rear passengers. Let me show you. So as I hope you can see, I've got plenty of knee room, plenty of room for my feet. They can go up underneath the seat in front of me if they need to, but I generally have plenty of room here. Likewise for the head, I've got enough room up here. I'm 6'1". My hair kind of grazes it a little bit, but everybody else fits back here just fine. And this is the one with the panoramic sunroof, so it's a little bit lower. If I scoot over, I definitely have a lot more room here for my head. Also have a nice pull down armrest with cup holders. These are 60/40 split seats, so they can fold down with a 60/40 split. I, of course, get my own air vents back here, and you get 2 USB ports for charging back here. Again, all in all, just a really good experience in the rear seats. But let's jump into the front seats where it really matters, the driver's seats, and we'll talk more about the interior, the tech, and then we'll take it for a drive. Let's go. All right, and just like the rear seats and the rest of this vehicle, there is plenty of room up here in the front seats. Very spacious, very comfortable seating. We have the dark beige VTEX leatherette seats here that look really nice. I like this color scheme. It's a darker beige with black, and then you also have these aluminum looking pieces and some carbon fiber looking pieces. You also get some piano black mixed in. So there are a few different materials here, but it's not overwhelming. It looks really good together, and that aesthetically I can appreciate. So these seats are heated seats as well as memory seats. Great for families. We do have a nice leather shift knob and leather steering wheel. And of course on this SEL trim, that leather steering wheel is heated. Also included on the SEL trim is the panoramic sunroof. It's a really large sunroof that goes all the way towards the back seats, and you have a tilting and sliding back sunroof. All right, and let's start running through the interior, starting off with the 8-inch color display. This is the Discover Media touchscreen with navigation system. It of course has HD radio as well as XM radio. You also get Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. You get some cool features with this. It's nice, big, and responsive, but you also get these blue pages for the Think Blue Trainer. You also get vehicle status, driving data, an energy consumers page, and an active info display. A little bit further down, you have all your AC controls right here, all physical buttons. Really nice. The engine has an automatic start-stop feature, which you can turn off with a button right here. Of course, your emergency lights right here. Further down is your 2 USB ports. No USB Type-C, just regular USB Type-A ports, and an auxiliary port and a 12-volt accessory port. And down here in this cubby, you also do get a wireless charger that will wirelessly charge your wirelessly charging phone. Moving further down, you can see the traditional gear shifter, no electronic gear shifter. You have a electronic start-stop button. You have your electronic parking brake, and you have your terrain management system. So you have a snow mode, your normal mode, an off-road mode, and an off-road custom mode. When you're normal mode, you also have different driving modes, including a normal, a sport, a custom mode, and an eco mode. And then a little bit further down, your parking sensor button. Next, you can see the center console, which has a good amount of depth, and another USB charging port. Moving on to the steering wheel, you do have steering wheel mounted controls. On the right hand side, you have buttons to interface with your driver's information display, which we'll touch on in just a second. You have a touch to talk button, your heated steering wheel, changing your radio stations or songs. On the left hand side here is all your cruise control settings, your radar guided cruise control, your 360 safety. We'll touch on these as we drive, and your volume control. All right, and to your driver's information display. This is known as Volkswagen's digital cockpit, and it is pretty nice. So you can see you have the full navigation right there in your digital cockpit, but you can change that to be your audio settings, telephone, vehicle status, driving data, your 360 assist, and back to your navigation. Now you'll notice that on these other pages, it is centered in the middle and looks suspiciously a lot like the smaller display in the regular Atlas, but you can also change your view here and get more information on the sides of that screen, including digital gauge clusters, or just having it blank. So there are a lot of different settings that you can have here. It's a really good use of the full display, but I usually try to keep it in the full navigation because I just think it looks cool. Of course, we also have a backup camera with guidelines. Unfortunately, you don't get a 360 camera. With bigger SUVs, I would definitely prefer that 360 camera, but it is a nice, crisp HD backup camera, and that helps a lot with parking. This thing is big, but it's not really that hard to park. So you get a lot of other safety features, including a traffic sign detection assist. You have park distance control. You have rain sensing windshield wipers, and you have heated windshield washer nozzles. And of course you have a lot more, but I think it's time to take it out on the road, start driving, and we'll talk a little bit more about it. Let's get into it. Is a Cross Sport, and it's got a sporty look, so that should tell you that it should be a sort of at least a little bit sporty of a drive. So let's put it into that sport mode, get on a straightaway back road right here, and do a little bit of an acceleration test just to see how that V6 handles in sport mode. All right, so we'll put it into sport mode. Keep in mind this is the 4Motion, so it's an all-wheel drive system, but let's just hit it and see how it goes. 1, 2, 3, go. And that's 60. So it's okay. It holds on to the revs. It gets up and going a little bit quicker in sport mode, but I definitely wouldn't compare it with other really sporty SUVs like the Edge ST or even the Acura RDX A-Spec. So let's just throw it back into normal mode. And let's talk a little bit about the steering. So one of the big complaints that I have with my vehicle, which isn't a deal breaker for me, but just something that I prefer heavier steering in a vehicle, especially a family SUV. It makes you feel more connected to the road. It makes it easier for driving for the most part for myself. But the Atlas has pretty loose and light steering, and I would prefer it to be heavier. This isn't the heaviest steering that I've felt, but it is a little bit more heavier than the 3-row Atlas. The steering wheel itself is more chunky and beefy. The 3-row Atlas has a thinner steering wheel, and I do prefer that chunkier, sportier steering wheel. It does have a bit of a flat bottom like you would see in more sporty vehicles. So day-to-day driving wise, I do prefer the driving style of this Atlas Cross Sport over the Atlas. Other than that, there's not much to say that's completely different. We have a bigger infotainment system in this one, but this is the SEL and I have the S. You get more features than I have, but again, this is the SEL versus the S. But the layouts and looks inside are really similar, but the overall driving style is a little bit better and more refined for what I like in this Cross Sport. Fuel economy wise, I've been averaging 11.2 miles to the gallon in this vehicle. That's completely out of whack because we let it idle a lot for doing video stuff, acceleration tests and things like that. Push these things a little bit harder than I would in my normal day-to-day driving. So I definitely wouldn't take that 11.3 miles to the gallon. We're always averaging about 19 to 20 miles to the gallon in our 3-row Atlas. So I have no doubt that this can do close to that average. Of course, this is the 4Motion, so you're going to take a little bit of a hit there. I could definitely see you getting 18 to 20 miles per gallon depending on how you drive. And I will say again, this is the V6 engine. I own the V6 engine. I like the V6 engine in this vehicle, but I've also driven that 2-liter turbocharged engine. I'll have a link down in the description for that video, but that was on the 3-row Atlas, and I think it handled just fine there. So I have no doubt that if you get this Cross Sport with that 4-cylinder turbocharged engine, it will handle really well as well. But of course, I haven't had the chance to test that out, so I can't say for sure, but this V6 definitely does handle everything that this thing needs to handle just fine. You can also get this with a tow package, and it can tow up to 5,000 pounds, which is a decent amount for like a jet ski or a small boat or an ATV or a bike or something like that. So you do get that radar guided cruise control and the 360 system. So let's jump up on the highway, test that out, then we'll pull back over to talk about the price and competition here, and then we'll start wrapping this video up. So you do have a radar guided cruise control, you do have a lane keeping assist system, and these work in conjunction pretty well. It's definitely not an autonomous driving system. It definitely wants you to keep your hands on the wheel. It won't do corners very well. It kind of bounces you back and forth in the lanes to keep you in the middle. So it's not to the level that some others like Nissan and Hyundai have, but it is a pretty decent system if you look at it as an assist system and not an autonomous driving system, which it's not even advertised as. All right, so if you're loving this as much as I am, your main question now is price. So the base price for the base trim level is $30,545, which is a really great price. And the Volkswagen Atlas that I own is the S. It was about $32,000 sitting on the lot, and we walked away with it under $30,000. If you're looking at the base SE trim, you're talking about $33,945. If you want to jump into the V6 SEL trim, that's $41,345. And then we have ours, the V6 SEL with 4Motion. This one that we're sitting in has an MSRP of $45,345. And of course, top of the line, you can look at a V6 SEL Premium R-Line with 4Motion. Spec'd out to the max is still just over $52,000. So all in all, I'd definitely say those are good prices for what you get in this vehicle. It's not a super luxurious vehicle, even at that $52,000 range. I think the mid SEL or even the SE trims are probably where you want to be. Like this one that we're driving right here. I could even take this one with this interior, the V6 engine and not the 4Motion, and save a bit of money, but it's always nice to have that four-wheel drive if you ever need it. If you're looking at competition, you could look at the Ford Edge, which this is bigger than. Something a little bit closer in size is the Jeep Grand Cherokee, but I think the Grand Cherokee fits better in a space of off-road driving or really luxurious driving. Some of the top level trims of that Grand Cherokee are as good as Mercedes and BMW. You could also look at the Honda Passport over this. Now, I drove and reviewed the Passport and I raved about it. I think it's a really great vehicle. We took it off-road and did some really crazy stuff off-road with it that surprised the crap out of me. But for day-to-day driving and looks and style, I would still prefer the Volkswagen Atlas Cross Sport. All right, guys, with that, let's jump out. I'll give you my final thoughts and we'll wrap up this video. All right, guys, and as you can tell, the fog has finally burned off this morning, and it is already getting hot. So let's wrap this video up with some final thoughts. So first of all, I bought the 3-row Atlas because it was one of the biggest 3-row vehicles that you can get for the money. It has 3 rows, but it still has good cargo area in the back. It's 20 cubic feet of cargo space, which again is one of the biggest in the market if you're not looking at one of the truck-based platforms like the Expedition or Tahoe. And we bought the S trim, the very base with cloth seats and no bells and whistles. The only thing we optioned up for was that V6 engine. And I've been really happy with the vehicle and definitely recommend it for anybody with a large family looking for a 3-row SUV at a good price, because we spent under $30,000 on that vehicle. The Cross Sport, though, for me, losing that 3rd row, it really has to justify itself in another way, which it is still a big and nice vehicle to drive. You still have a ton of cargo space, but with a lot of 2-row SUVs, you get pretty decent cargo space. So one of the things I was hoping it would distinguish itself with is not just its sporty looks, but actual sporty driving. And while it's more sporty than that 3-row, it's a lot less sporty than some other sporty SUVs that I've driven in the same segment. So it doesn't really hit a home run on anything, but I still think it's a really good SUV. And if you like the looks, you like the size, it's definitely worth checking out. They still have it at a really good price. You can still get the base trim at right around $30,000. If you get any kind of incentive from the dealership, you can get it for under 30 grand. If you want a little bit of bells and whistles, you can get this for around $40,000, which I think is a great price for what you're getting here. So again, I definitely recommend it if you're looking for a large 2-row SUV, especially like I said, if you're doing any kind of business and running around a lot and you don't need a haul like kids or a lot of people in it. This is a great vehicle to just throw stuff in the back and go. With that, that's the end of the review. I hope you guys did enjoy. If you did, please hit that thumbs up button. Again, leave me a comment down below. Let me know what you think about the Cross Sport versus the regular Atlas, or how it fits in the market. And as always, guys, thanks for watching. All right, well, I'm gonna steal a little bit more of your time if you give me the chance here at the end of this video. I do wanna say, if you enjoyed the review, definitely subscribe to the channel. We also have another channel where we do what we call quick look videos. So they're not full reviews, we just give you a quick look at what we're driving and take questions and comments on there that we can address in the full review. So if you want more input into these reviews, definitely go check out that channel and check out our quick look videos. We also have a community on locals.com. It's txgarage.locals.com. Locals is sort of like Patreon, where you can join a community for free, or you can support the community and get some extra behind the scenes or more private content. And there you get access to me and other Texas Garage contributors. So if you're not already part of our community over at Locals, I really suggest going and checking that out. And if you want to be a paid member, we really appreciate it. With that, that's it, guys. I'm letting you go. Have a good one.